call this meeting to order and start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, our apologies. Our executive session ran a couple minutes long, so we are a few minutes late starting our open session. In order to accommodate the 4th of July parade, there will be no parking on or around the Grafton Common from 11 p.m. on Thursday, July 3rd until noon on Friday, July 4th. All roads leading to the Common will be closed beginning at 9:45 a.m. on Friday morning, including the parade route, which runs along North Street, from North Street Elementary School to the Common. Please plan accordingly. The Grafton Public Library will have a change of hours on Thursday, July 3rd, being open 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. They will be closed on both Friday, July 4th and Saturday, July 5th in observance of the holiday. The farmers market season has begun. Lots of great vendors will be on the Common every Wednesday from 2 to 6 p.m. The Grafton Recreation Summer Concert Series begins Thursday, July 10th at 6:30 at the Grafton Common with Holden Back. The series will continue every Thursday night at different parks around town. National Night Out is back again this year, starting at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, August 5th. Come to the Grafton Police Department for games, giveaways, food, and family fun. Always a great time, so I encourage everybody to come out and participate in that if they can. Okay, we have one other announcement that I'm going to call Mr. DeToma out for, please.
Good evening, everyone. Bob DeToma with the Parade Planning Group. Stoney sends his regrets. He's busy tonight. So I wanted to give you the last shout out for the parade, which is scheduled for Friday that you just mentioned. And I brought along some props. You can't have a presentation without good props. So our volunteers this year are going to be in this color. So those people will be either assisting us at the Common or marshaling the parade. We're hoping to spread some of the walkers out so that they're not right smack behind the group in front of them, so people can tell who's who without too much confusion. We also have tons of giveaways, including crayon and coloring pages that are all 4th of July themed. Then we get into the good stuff. So we have patriotic themed Mardi Gras beads. And then we have some that are star shaped. And then we have some that are even more star shaped. So I think we got the patriotic aspects covered, if I can get it out of the bag. We also have little rubber patriotic bracelets to hand out. We have, this is the big one with the kids, bubble wands, hundreds and hundreds of bubble wands. We ran out last year. And of course, we have over 1,000 mini flags to hand out to anybody and everybody who shows up. We have, up to this minute, almost 40 participants, which is an increase since year one. I think we were 25 or 26. Grafton Fire has 6 vehicles, police have 2 or 3, DPW has 3, the Army vehicles, different groups. We've been really pushing the aspect to get the kids out there with their bicycles and decorate, so they've got free decorations if they start at the parade starting point. So we're hoping that'll be a big hit. And of course, the big draw this year is that the farmers market's going to be on the Common while the parade is in motion. So big things going on. And thank you for the announcement about parking. It's good to know. And I don't know if you have any questions or not, but I'm able to answer them.
Do you have any questions?
It's great. Thanks to all the work for the committee.
Yeah,
for
thanks
everything
a lot,
you guys are doing.
Okay. Have a good night.
You too.
I'll just piggyback on that, the bike and decorating station will be set up at North Street Elementary where the parade will depart. That'll be open from roughly 8:30 to 9:15, although you can continue to decorate right up until the time of the parade and then participate with us if you'd like. So, Okay, hope to see everybody at the 4th of July parade. Always a good time, well attended. We do have a public hearing tonight.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, Mr. Alamo.
I'll read the legal notice. The Select Board will hold a public hearing on the request of National Grid and Verizon New England Incorporated for permission to locate poles, wires, and fixtures, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures, along and across the following public way. Brigham Hill Road, National Grid to relocate one JO pole on Brigham Hill Road, beginning at a point approximately 230 feet east of the center line of the intersection of Potter Hill Road. National Grid to install one new 40-foot Class 3 pole, numbered P23, on Brigham Hill Road to replace an existing pole that needs to move 20 feet east per the customer's request. This public hearing will be held on July 1st, 2025, here in Conference Room A of the Grafton Memorial Municipal Center, located at 30 Providence Road, starting at 7 p.m. Remote participation is available using Zoom webinar ID number 83307805914. Interested citizens are invited to attend this public hearing and offer comments in writing, in person, or via Zoom. Written comments must have been received on Thursday, June 26, 2025.
Motion to open the public hearing?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Public hearing is open. Okay, we have Michael from National Grid.
I'm not Michael, I'm the property owner, if you have any questions.
Okay.
I don't believe we have anyone on from.
Yeah, I don't see anybody.
No.
It's unusual.
Okay, well, you want to come up, introduce yourself quickly, and tell us a little more about the request, please?
So, this,
Hold on, you have to be at the mic. Name and address first, please.
Charles Mason, 66 Brigham Hill Road.
Thank you.
I just asked, the pole is, we moved there early, the pole is in front of, we cut the trees, the poles, the cable of the pole is right in front of the stumps that I want to relocate, remove, and it's blocking it. And I want to also eventually break down the driveways in bad shape and move to the area, so it's just the pole is in the way. So I asked to relocate it a little bit. That's all the request is.
The board have any questions?
No.
No? Okay, thank you very much. Any questions or comments from the public at this time? Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
None. No opposed. We are out of the public hearing. Mr. Alamo.
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to approve and sign the poll petition by National Grid for Brigham Hill Road as presented.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you for coming in tonight. You don't have to stay. You can if you want.
Andy.
Was that? Oh, that's
Just that.
Oh, that's it. Oh,
You have to go to Cracked Windows.
thank you.
Thank you.
oh, man.
Maybe he can get ice cream for us. Okay.
Gotta be faster.
So we have a couple election worker appointments. Again, just for recap, we do not require election workers to come in, so we can go right to motion.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to appoint David Negwa and Dan Fitzgerald as election workers for the town of Grafton.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, motion passes unanimously. We have one appointment from the fire chief.
I can make a motion.
Yes, they're not in tonight, correct? We weren't expecting the.
No, unless they're command staff, they don't come in.
So, yep, right to motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to affirm the appointment of Nicholas Franks as an auxiliary firefighter at Station 1.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. All right. So now we are into new and continued business, and we'll start with our partnership with Gap Recovery Inc.
How we doing?
Good.
Great. How are you?
Recognize you.
I am Matthew Gear. We operate, we're on the board of directors of Gap Recovery, which is Guided Addiction Access Points. I've come from the Grafton community. I'm a person in recovery myself. We also operate a sober home over in South Grafton at 28 Main Street. I personally been doing post-overdose and at-risk work with the Grafton Police Department for about the past 4 or 5 years. Through the District Attorney Early's office, the DOJ was funding all of this. That funding has gone away. They no longer want to fund these programs. So GAP wanted to kind of come in and kind of take on all of this in kind of on our own. We've been doing the work for the past 4 or 5 years. Fortunately, but unfortunately for other organizations, we found it very easy for us to kind of continue to take this on. And we've also added many aspects to just post-overdose and at risk. We have found some things going on in the community of the youth advocacy. We want to do some advocacy work with the youth and awareness work. We also want to do some mentorship. I have family members that are in the school system here, and we've come across some troubles with bullying and things of that nature, and we really want to play a huge part in that as mentors and trying to come up with a solution to that. We have worked, partnered with the town of Grafton. Our plan this year is to bring on 4 events in the community. One of them is going to be at National Night Out, where we're going to offer up a backpack drive for all from K to 8 and then 9 through 12. The backpack drive, completely free give outs. And we also, what we want to do is we want to have information in these backpacks. So from K to 8 is going to be parent information. We still work side by side with the district attorney's office. So they do a thing called Hidden in Plain Sight, where they come out with, Coke cans that have the little screw off bottoms that kids are using and things of that nature. That kind of information is going to be in for the parents. 9 through 12, we want to have that drug and alcohol awareness information in there as well. We are Narcan trainers. So we want to bring Narcan trainings to the community as often as we possibly can. I'm going to call us experts on outreach because that's one of the biggest. We've been in the community. I want to say there was 2 Narcan trainings last year, and the struggle with it is nobody shows up. So that's where we come in as Gap Recovery as well, and we're out there doing outreach for the community and trying to bring people in. We're going to do in September, actually, let me back up, August 31st is International Overdose Awareness Day. I know personally quite a few people we've lost in the Grafton community, and even more in just Central Mass alone. So we're going to take on the Common, and we want to do an overdose vigil at the Common, where we plant flags. We allow families to come out, share about their loved ones, and we try to do a celebration of life, in that moment. Next one after that is September 13th. We're shooting for Nelson Memorial Park. We want to do a family fun recovery day, and we're bringing on a wiffle ball tournament to it. Part of that is we want to draw enough money to be able to offer some scholarships for the Grafton kids, the youth. If they're struggling paying for sports, we want to be able to offer a scholarship based on that so these kids can kind of get out and do things. We offer scholarships for sober living as well. Through GAP. So if somebody is coming out of a long-term treatment facility, we have the ability to offer anywhere from a week to 30-day scholarship to get them rocking and rolling. We also do recovery coaching. Recovery coaching is a basically peer support model that I'm a recovery coach, and if I'm working with John, I guide him and follow through with him, whether it's a license, if it's housing, if it's food stamps, we work with all of it and we guide that individual. Right now, it's just a short-term recovery coaching with the post-overdose follow-up. Our goal is that long-term piece, so we can start to see some maintenance in people's recovery and they're maintaining it. John, what am I missing?
Nothing really. So what I did was I made these folders for each one of you to have, and really it has in each one of it has a brochure that we have that goes through. It goes through our youth prevention, intervention, and healing, our post overdose treatment, harm reduction, education stuff. Everything that he just rattled off to you is in this. There's also business cards. We have. This is our rough draft of our Backpack to Basics that we're partnering with the town of Grafton with for National Night Out. Our handbook for Project Healing House is on the other side. So if you know anybody that's struggling with mental health, substance use, like, we answer the phone. Doesn't matter if it's 1 a.m. or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We're gonna pick up the phone. Our business cards are all in here. Our brochures are all in here. Our website's all in here. So please, if you know of anybody that's struggling or anything, the hardest thing, that phone is like 1,000-pound weight, man. And once you get on the other line of it and get Matter Eye, and you have somebody that's got empathy, compassion, and the lived experience to walk you through this, it's a world of difference. I'm a Grafton resident. I live at 20 Main Street. 2 doors down from our sober house, so we keep a close eye on what goes on there. We work hand in hand with all the police officers and other municipal employees, and we really look forward to putting this money to some good use and helping some people long term. So I really appreciate you guys and giving us the opportunity to introduce ourselves to you. Any questions?
Anybody?
Sure.
Sure, Mr. Hoffman.
Yeah, just a couple of comments. I love what you guys are doing. I think every resident in Grafton could identify with the suffering
Yes.
and the pain and the difficulty that addiction presents in a community. And often we ask ourselves, what can we do? And the type of program that you guys are running, that's what we can do. There's probably a lot of people in Grafton that might not even be aware that you guys were running a sober house,
Yeah.
right? But so that's good, right? There's no, like, you guys aren't the problem child
Yes.
of Grafton.
Yes, you are absolutely.
It turned out very well.
But
did.
but it's also bad,
Yes.
because the work that you guys do is so important to keeping the vitality of our community and helping people recover from their addictions. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about the work that you guys are doing. I know a couple of guys that lived in your sober house in Grafton. I know one of the guys really is a good friend of mine who worked there recently. And I really I hear nothing but good things about it. And I just if anybody, you talked about the 1,000-pound phone. The toughest thing that people have often is that they get isolated and they feel like there's no help for them. And so my plea to residents is, if you're struggling or if you know someone who's struggling, reach out to a facility like this and get the help that you need. There's no shame in it. There's no judgment in it. Often it's covered by insurance. Get the help that you need. It's critical. So thanks, guys, for coming in tonight. I really, really deeply appreciate what you guys do.
I do want to say too, you guys, Grafton has, I'm gonna give it the best police department in Massachusetts, and
Yeah.
I'm getting emotional. Because
We agree on that.
We would agree with you.
This is the one who knocked on my door on my last day of using, and he helped me, like, take that next step into treatment. And then we get to do this.
So,
And that's one of the biggest things that the doors that the town of Grafton's open for us is that stigma that you were talking about. Is like when someone talks about the work we do, you always hear the bad stuff. You always hear about the chaos that surrounded it and the destruction that we left in our path. But to have Grafton have our back means the world to us.
well, as Matt said, thank you for the work that you guys are doing. It's not always easy. I'm sure there are days that it's rewarding and there are days that it's devastating, right? So, and great job on your presentation too. And hopefully there's people watching, the word gets out. You mentioned that you're doing some training. You didn't have anybody show up. So if we can help spread the word, because in our community, and this is, if you live here, which you guys do, you know this is a special community. You guys are a big part of it and an important part of it. So use us, use staff as far as getting the word out there that you guys are there, you want to help, you're a resource, you pick up the phone 24/7, when people need you.
Got to.
People need to know about that. It's important. So thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you guys. Did, somebody didn't get a folder.
I took Evans away.
Thank you.
Stole Evans.
All right, appreciate it.
You're not done yet, though.
No.
A couple of questions. So just so I understand, thank you for what you're doing, first of all. But secondly, so there's the sober house in South Grafton. You've been operating that for a couple of years or what have you. And then the rest of what you're doing in terms of the outreach, is there a bricks and mortar for that, or is it based out of?
We have a brick and mortar for Gap in Whitensville.
Okay.
Our goal is to find another satellite in each community we're working with. We're in the process of also being a part of Marlboro. Marlboro has reached out to us and they want us to be a part of that. And that's kind of what's happening is people are seeing, they're like, wait a second, like, can you guys come and do some of that? So we're going to be hiring more recovery coaches, and like, let me tell you, we did not expect this to just go.
Yeah.
Explode. But then again, we've been doing the work for quite some time where
That's what I was wondering, like, where are you in that realm, eh? Like, all of a sudden you open the doors.
Yeah, we like Matt said, we've been doing this. So I'm a program director for Spectrum Health Systems. Matt's a program director for Perennial Recovery. So we do this in our normal careers anyway, and we've been recovery coaches and advocates and treatment placement specialists forever. You know, we literally lived this, so we do it now. And we were doing it for Spectrum for a while, and then when the grant ended, they had a sustainability meeting. We said, well, why don't we use some of this abatement money that's out there and see if we can come up with something. And we formalized the work that we were already doing in kind. We weren't getting paid for it anymore. And then I think this is now our 3rd month since we signed the lease in Whitensville. And it's literally an empty room with a bunch of desks in it that we come in and vigorously do work and then turn around and leave. So that's the next thing we're trying to raise money for. It's right across the street from Northbridge High and Middle School. So that's the idea, is we want to take that the next level and do like office hours afterwards, so that we don't necessarily have to go into the school. So if there's any situation that any kids going through, they're walking by our office and they can stop in, and it won't be, you're not in the spotlight. You're not the one that's going to get made fun of because maybe your parent's struggling or you're struggling or some mental health things. Because like I said, stigma is what keeps people sick for a long time. So we're really honestly just, we're navigating the needs that we're hearing from the community. And we're kind of growing this a little bit at a time to fit what the community is telling us that we need. That started, like Matt said, with us just doing post-overdose follow-ups. So if somebody has a non-fatal overdose, the data is entered into the SIMS database. It goes to our emails, and we, within 24 to 48 hours, follow up with that individual, either on the phone or in person, and provide treatment resources, leave Narcan if they just shut the door in our face. And what we're realizing is when we meet them with care and compassion, when they are ready, that's when they call us. And then we're realizing that, well, maybe a recovery coach attached to that, is going to see them through it. And then we realize that that's exactly what's happening. And that's how we built our proposal and formed the work that we're doing now. Is it's based off of the needs. So next year, what we do might very well be different, because the need's going to be different. The what's in the drugs now is so much different. That's really what we're trying to focus the youth education and awareness piece of, is like, there's so many drugs that are tainted with fentanyl or xylazine or other substances that people don't even know about, and pills that look like they came from the manufacturer are actually pressed in someone's basement, and God knows what's happened, what's in them. So we're really just trying to use our contacts with Grafton to speak with guidance counselors and the principals and see what's going on in the schools and see where we can come in and help educate. Because I know my use and my mental health started way before I was an adult.
Great, thank you for that, appreciate it.
Absolutely. And just briefly, I want to introduce you guys to Dawn.
Yes.
Another big, huge part of this is we have the ability, we use a software called Recovery Data Platform, and we have the ability to drive a ton of information that actually gets provided now for future grants. So we get to kind of offer that to the town as well, of like, this is what's going on in the community, and it's all tracked. everything from housing to people's recovery capital, their education, their job status, the whole nine. And Dawn is our like project manager.
Yeah.
She enters everything. She does all the financial. You guys might hire her one day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, don't tell Mary Laurie that.
But yeah, and that's the thing is we built this great team where, well, Matt and I are running around with like chickens with our heads cut off. Dawn's the one that's holding it all together and does all our compliance stuff and makes sure all the bills are paid on time and keeps Matt and I in line when we get a little crazy, which is always good.
Any other questions?
Just a comment. It's hard to build on some of the good things that Matt shared, but also just wanted to say congratulations on your recovery.
Thank you.
It's a world.
And you know, it's not easy. So I may or may not have a really good friend who needed people like you, and he did not pick up that phone call. He did not pick up that phone. A few times, you know, tried, but just doesn't work out, and I don't think it works out in the first, second, or third, or however many tries.
Yep.
But his son tricked him, took him for a little drive, and found his way to people just like you. And my friend is alive and sober and living the dream,
Great.
back with the family and the whole thing. And you mentioned care and compassion, so I want to be careful here because you got a little emotional, right? And it's a great, because it's worthy, right? It's
My heart.
I mean, it's a celebration. If for nothing else, it's an absolute celebration. But it's hard to do, and with care and compassion, people like you, Dawn, and all that you're doing. I'll just speak from my own personal, tiny, minuscule experience with my good friend. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, and keep coming, keep going.
Thank
right?
you guys.
Yeah.
Just a couple things to I guess add on to that, and a couple questions to ask. Yeah, I totally agree with everything that's been said up here, and I think what makes this even more special is your local ties. You know, so you just I really appreciate that approach that you talked about, where you're identifying needs in the public right now and building off of that, rather than coming in with the assumption that these are general issues or whatever. It's customized, and there's just so much that goes into that, and having local people who can tell local stories and share their local experiences is huge. I am one of the people that Mr. Hoffman mentioned. I was unaware that we had sober houses in town, so I think it's amazing that you offer that service. I'm incredibly proud that the town, is able to support something like that. How best, what's the best way for people to get in touch with you and get more information? Can they follow you on social media, websites?
Yep, social media, website. You guys have the QR code as well. That's directly to our website. And you have our phone numbers. Those numbers can be passed out to anybody.
Yeah.
Do you want to share some of those now for anybody who may
Yep.
be watching?
So I'm Matthew Gear. I'm the recovery coach with Gap Recovery. My contact information is 774-219-1194. And my email is matt@gaprecovery.org.
And my name is John Mahefka. I am the recovery coach supervisor for Gap Recovery. My phone number is 774-778-7772. And my email is john@gaprecovery.org. Our website for our sober house is projecthealinghouse.com. If you go on either one of the websites, Project Healing House, there's an application for sober living right on there. It goes right to our emails immediately. And on Gap Recovery, there is 2 links on there. One that you can sign up for a free recovery coach that we do not charge insurance for. It's covered by the abatement dollars, so insurance is not required for that. And also there is a financial barrier request. So if you come in and you're really working hard and you have some fines to pay on your license or something like that, we're going to sit down with you, exhaust all other options, make sure that you have a firm plan. I want to be adamant that we don't just write checks. We don't just, you come in, you say, I need $100 for this. We sit down, we have several sessions with you, make sure that this is in fact a barrier that's stopping you from increasing your quality of life. And then we will use our contacts or our funds to cover that that barrier for you.
Is there a slideshow that you guys would like to take us through, or?
Yeah, I tried to share it, but
We were just kind of going.
yeah, it's not, oh, it's going, It's both on my
when-
computer, but not here. So I'm happy to share them at the wrap up of the meeting for people to take a look at, and maybe if they're somewhere on the Grafton site, we can
Yep.
put it up.
I was gonna suggest that we can put any of these documents that you have up on our website and share
Okay.
it that way and through our socials to get all of that.
Yeah,
happy
and I
Yeah,
can
I'd
send,
love
I can send, digital copies of it. The flyer that's in there, we caught a typo on it, earlier today and sent it back to the printer. So the ones that you have a typo on it, but we'll send out the digital copies, out to you guys so that you don't have to worry about scanning anything like that on there. But yeah, you can give our phone number or email to any human.
Thank you so much for
We
sharing
have
that
one
contact
request
info.
for next year, that we have a recovery float in the parade.
Yeah.
There you go.
We have one that we do in the St. Patrick's Day parade, and when we just heard that,
So
we were
moved.
like, why did we not think of that? So,
It is a short notice at this point, but
Oh, yeah,
you're
no,
able to
not
put
this
it
year.
together. I mean,
we can't pull it off this year. We're lucky we're here.
But yeah,
right
we
now.
will make sure you're on the list.
Say yes.
Yeah.
You
But
can
yeah,
use
next
Chevy
year.
with a moonroof. You could just stand up if you
Yeah,
want.
for real.
Truck.
But yeah, we'd love to be a part of that
Yeah,
next year.
anything we can help with, and we offer volunteer opportunities for the sober house that they want to get out and give back.
Yes,
as well.
absolutely.
So put us apart, put us to work. That's what we do.
Yep.
Great.
Appreciate all of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Evan,
Yeah.
this opportunity was identified by Mary, right?
Not exactly. I will, just before we move off of the topic, Mr. Chair, just want to point out, these are, the dollars that we're using for this are opioid settlement funds that the town, participated in a lawsuit. And secondly, I just want to thank all of our volunteers that are on the opioid committee who did all the work to get us to this point. I spend a lot of time with a lot of other municipalities, and we're one of the few that have actually spent any of these dollars and are actually putting the dollars to good use in the community. And so Grafton should be very proud of that as well.
That's great.
Yep,
Who's on that
that's
committee?
awesome.
Do you know who the
So
names?
it's Jay Cummings,
Dan Finn.
Dan Finn, Mary Loria, Chief Crapo, now Chief Bernardi. There were some folks on it from Worcester Public Health that were not affiliated with anymore. But yeah, great work.
I
And
believe Dan is staying on it even though he
Yep.
stepped down from the board.
correct, yes, that's a good point. So I met with, actually Dan was the first person I met with about this proposal.
Excellent.
And then Mary came in with a strong arm and said, "This would-"
As he always does.
no, but great work by everybody.
Yeah, that's
Really,
fantastic.
really cool project, and proud of Grafton for being out in front.
Yes, indeed.
It's great.
Okay, moving on. Up next, we have the Grafton Common Traffic Study Update.
I'm Mr. Chair, members of the board. Thank you for having us this evening. That's a tough one to follow, but we'll do our best. A lot of board members have been familiar with this project, the Grafton Common Traffic Study Update. It's a goal of yours. A lot of you were in attendance at the open house. And this evening, we are going to go through the draft of the report. I apologize for not getting it out until today. There was some tech issues that caused a little bit of a delay. I'm not going to go on too much because Erin, who's on, is the subject expert and she can speak much more intelligently than I to this. However, I did want to reiterate and thank the members of the board, as well as the folks who are involved in the stakeholder group who have been engaging with me throughout this process. I do want to assure folks in Grafton, if you are interested in staying updated with this project and want to be involved in the stakeholder interview group, please reach out to me. Just because we are at the draft phase of the plan doesn't mean that we're not still taking your feedback and using that information for future considerations. So just a real brief, I guess, background for anyone who isn't aware, before I turn it over to Erin, is the town received a grant from MDI through the state, which is a Massachusetts Downtown Initiative, to do an update to the 2012 Grafton Common Traffic Study. We had a very robust engagement scope of work, and we had a lovely open house at the library. We had a site walk with topic experts. We've continued to engage with the stakeholder group as well as broadcasting as in many ways as we can about the status of this project. There will be some recommendations that you'll see this evening that are likely going to be suggestions for future study and consideration. So just be aware of that. But yeah, without further ado, I think I'll just turn it over to Erin.
Thank you, Fiona, and thank you, Chairman and the Select Board for having me tonight. My name is Erin Gilchrist, and I am a Senior Transportation Planner with Stantec's Urban Mobility Group. We've been doing these technical assistance projects with the state for over 10 years now, and have worked with a lot of communities like your own to really dive into a specific challenge that you're facing and brainstorm some recommendations that could be implemented. So we have a presentation today. I will keep it short and try to keep us to 15 minutes. But know if there's anything that you do want to revisit, we can do so. So can I share my screen so I can click? Is that all right?
Yep. Go right ahead.
Okay, great. That way I will be able to keep it brief. So many of you were involved in the public engagement process to date, so I will breeze through that section and focus primarily on the opportunities that we have here in the Grafton Common, as well as our draft recommendations. And as Fiona mentioned, we still have time for comment, so this is still the draft version of the report, and so you are all able to provide your comments that would be incorporated into the final report that we are looking to finalize this month of July. At the beginning of this select board meeting, we heard a lot about great things that are happening in Grafton Common this fall, which is awesome. It just supports this. The Common is really someplace that folks want to be and want to enjoy. And you have a lot of great buildings through here, but unfortunately, it's also a place that there are a lot of crashes. I don't need to tell you all this. You are the ones who are actually experiencing it. But a lot of these crashes are rooted not just in the speeds of cars traveling through the Common, but also in the geometry of the way that your streets are designed. And you all identified through your master plan process that you want to create a safer community. You want to create a road system that can be maintained. And a lot of this is going to be around the Common. So we're going to support these goals from the master plan, as well as what was identified in the Complete Streets Prioritization Plan to advance the Grafton Common design to be safer. And when I say Grafton Common, I mean what I have on the screen here, really focusing at Upton Street and Worcester Street and the intersections with Millbury and South, but recognize that some of the recommendations that we have are really going to change the way that cars travel on 140, even beyond what you're seeing on the screen here. So some of the project goals that were identified through the application process, as well as the public engagement process, are to create a safer Grafton Common. What I mean by that is manage vehicle speeds, make pedestrian crossing safer, increase visibility, which will do just that, as well as optimize travel flows in Grafton Common and make it a more predictable environment for pedestrians, cyclists, bus riders, and cars. We're also going to talk a little bit about curbside conflicts with the placement of parking, as well as traffic control devices, if we can consider signals in this area. We asked the public to comment on the goals, and really what we saw was that managing vehicle speeds and improving clarity, improving circulation is the most important, which is great because it's also the challenges that the Common is facing with the layout of the green space and the roads that go around it, as well as signage, but also the speeds of cars traveling through the Common. This is our schedule. We're towards the end, and we really are trying to get your all's feedback on our draft materials now. So I want to first talk briefly about the speeds through Grafton Common, recognizing that as cars are approaching the Common, they're traveling 40 miles an hour. coming into Grafton Common and as cars drive through here, we're seeing that the average car is driving about 30 miles an hour, even though the speed limit is 25. And this matters because when a car hits a pedestrian at 30 miles an hour, there's a 50% chance of a fatality or a serious pedestrian injury. This is not what you want in a place that folks are really excited about going to the farmer's market and going to the 4th of July parade. Really what we would like to see is 0. That's always the goal. And in order to do that, we need to slow cars down to under 20 miles an hour. For people in the car, so not just pedestrians, if a car was to get into a crash at 30 miles an hour, you're still going to have a 5% chance. And we can get that closer to 0 if we can slow cars down. And I went through a whole exercise in the public meeting talking about how if you go from the 40 miles an hour that folks are coming directly into the common at, they're going about 15 seconds. If they're going 30 miles an hour, it's going to take them 20 seconds to travel through. And then if we get you down to the 15 miles an hour where cars are really recognizing that the common is not a place to drive like a highway, but rather slow down and appreciate your historic nature of your environment here, that you're going to have that trade-off of fewer crashes and fewer fatalities, or the opportunity for that. So that's about speeds, or at least setting the stage for the speeds. The next place that we want to talk about is high visibility crosswalks. This is a design element of how your crosswalks are painted on the ground. And for the most part, you're meeting that standard of high visibility crosswalks with your zebra stripes and your ladder crossings. These are considered international standards. The brick crosswalks can work. We just want to make sure that they're still visible for cars. So you're going to see in our recommendations that we're going to highlight the importance of having those international standards. But more importantly, the biggest challenge that is facing Grafton Commons crosswalks is the locations of them. And I understand that this was recommended by a previous engineering company. We would love to talk to them about why they recommended this, but you never want the cars to stop in front of the crosswalk. What that's going to do is it's only going to hide pedestrians so that a vehicle turning, can I draw? I can draw. I can use a laser pointer. Okay. If a car is coming up Worcester Street and turning onto Millbury, they can't see somebody in the crosswalk. So that's going to be one of your challenges, especially when we talk about how fast cars are going. This is that 30 miles an hour I was saying that people are traveling through Grafton Common, and the what you're able to see is much smaller. When we go 15 miles an hour, your cone of vision just increases. And so we really want to make sure that we're not only relocating the crosswalk so that we can see the pedestrian hiding behind the building here, but that we slow cars down, we relocate where the pedestrian is, and the drivers can see everything, increasing that visibility that I was talking about. We took a lot of information like travel volumes, understanding left turns and right turns, and who's trying to get through the common here. These arrows represent the biggest moves, which is 140, but I do want to recognize that the cars coming from South Street and Millbury Street are also having a big impact on how folks are getting around here, especially if you're going up towards the elementary school on North Street. And finally, you have a lot of dead space in the common. You have very historic slip lanes, and this leads to the feel that you all have today, but it can also be confusing. Anytime we have more pavement than is necessary, it's not clear for folks where they need to be in the common. So I'm moving into the recommendation section of my presentation, and I promise I'll keep this brief, but we're going to start by managing the speeds. This is what you're all seeing today. As I mentioned, we really are trying to zoom out on 140 as opposed to just looking at the common, because it's going to impact how folks approach your downtown. We're first going to move the 30 miles an hour to 25 miles an hour, increase that cone of vision when you're coming from the north. Finally, we're going to move out the 25 miles an hour further east towards the Grafton Fire headquarters, and really make sure that folks are only traveling 30 miles an hour. I really don't like to see 40 miles an hour in a downtown. And then you have this one stretch of 140 within Grafton that cars are traveling 45 miles an hour, or that is permitted. Again, you're really not saving that much time, but you're putting drivers and pedestrians at a much greater risk of a fatality should a crash occur. So here's some a summary of those recommendations I just walked through, and then what you would see from the speed limits perspective. We did work with your stakeholders and some town staff to go over these recommendations, and the placement of the 25 miles an hour was actually a direct request by your Department of Public Works. Finally, next we're going to talk about the width of lanes on 140, and I understand that 11.5 feet is comfortable for your all's Public Works Department, especially when it comes to plowing the street. But if you were to stripe 140 to 10 feet as opposed to 11.5, your typical car is going to feel as though they have to slow down. When you have a narrower travel lane, it's going to feel more like a downtown than a highway. And so we're going to continue to recommend this, but we'll also incorporate strategies for plowing. It's important to know that we're not recommending you remove pavement. We're just recommending that you paint it in a different way. So if a truck needed to go over the shoulder line, they would still be able to in order to make the maneuvers that are needed, and then to move snow off 140 as well. That would still be possible. You're just going to also get folks to slow down. And then we're going to incorporate traffic calming, which you will see in the form of curb extensions. For improving pedestrian crossings, we already talked about high visibility, universal and international standards for crosswalks, as well as moving the crosswalks so that cars can see pedestrians who are waiting. At the 140 South intersection, we're going to reuse some of the space that isn't being used to its best potential right now. You can see that we have a lot of open space. Again, so much pavement actually makes navigating the common more confusing as opposed to clearer. And so what we're going to recommend is adding curb extensions, narrowing crosswalks, and then lengthening the median so that folks are channelized through the crossing the intersection. There are two ways that you can do this. And our report is going to suggest that this be studied further before you implement it. You can even implement one of these in temporary measures with paint and cones before you decide which one should be permanent in the common. Our next recommendation is just extend the sidewalk for this MassDOT design. We propose you do this before MassDOT starts their construction, so they're able to get it incorporated into this project. At the Millbury intersection, again, you have a lot of pavement, but it actually is necessary. You do need these two turning lanes if you're not going to signalize this intersection. Signalization is something that should be studied further, but can't be done through this technical assistance program. Again, we're going to relocate that crosswalk, and so this would be our preferred recommendation at this time. You do gain a little bit of space on the common, which should be good for maintaining tree health, as well as more space for folks to enjoy the great activities that happen here. And then our final set of recommendations has to do with the circulation around the common itself. Many of these can be combined. So you can see the two intersection designs are incorporated here. You can do these while also considering closing North Street. This would give cars who are parked in front of the ice cream shop a little bit more room to navigate as they're pulling in and out of those parking spaces. You can consider signalizing 140 in Millbury, we do see that there would be some benefit to this, but it's a trade-off that could be considered in a future traffic study as well. We have 4 different alternatives for how you handle everything west of the common. So west of the open space, this has the most dead pavement that is confusing and should be considered. I will say that we did consider or propose a common about where you would make the common into a roundabout, and we took that off the table pretty quickly, so you won't see that in the presentation. We did suggest a 2-way George Jordan Boulevard. I heard a lot about why this would not be ideal, as folks are using this for pickup and drop off. It's a much more it's used for short-term trips, and we don't want it to be a cut through. Well, George Jordan Boulevard would need to be is a slow street, one that is more considered a yield street, almost like a neighborhood street, as opposed to a cut through, and we can sign it accordingly. But that way folks are able to get to pick up and drop up from either side. And finally, we would like to upgrade the signage as you're coming down Worcester Street onto Upton Street. There's 2 signs, one that says no trucks and then one that says no left turn. We believe that there's better signage that we can use in order to really make it clear that that sign is indicating that trucks are not supposed to turn, not just all vehicles. So with that, I will pause. I can take questions, and I have many more of these materials that we can go through if you have detailed questions. But Fiona, I'll turn it back to you.
Great. Thank you, Erin. I think that was a great way of going through the recommendations and explaining them in a straightforward way. So I think at this point, it would be most beneficial to hear from the board and their thoughts. And I'll be taking note of the comments and making sure that whatever is said this evening is incorporated into the final. And that's also, obviously this is a public meeting, so we do want to hear from anybody who is interested in speaking to this. So thank you.
Okay. Would someone like to kick us off? Anybody have questions?
I have a couple,
Sure.
I guess. Fiona, that slide that shows the extension of some of these islands, and there was an island that was between the inn and the library, that it looked like if you were at the end of South Street.
This one, right, Greg?
Yeah, one before that, I think.
Okay.
Maybe one. Yeah, so all right, so are these raised islands? I'm just thinking, if you're at the end of South Street and you want to go straight across onto North Street, are you going to be able to make that movement? Because it looked like it was a continuation of that raised island, which would have blocked you from going straight across.
You mean the white and black line that goes across?
No, right in the yellow. Yep, right there.
Oh, no. This yellow is paint. This blue,
Okay. I thought there
these
was a slide
markings
that
are
showed-
just that it would be skipped paint, but you would be able to make the south to north movement. All
Okay.
movements would be retained in this situation. You would
Okay.
just be using some of the pavement to create additional green space to shorten the pedestrian crossings.
Yep. All right. I thought there was a slide that showed a raised island there, but maybe that was wrong.
Perhaps this, but that's not the intention. It
Okay,
would still
all
be
right,
paint.
great. The boulevard's an interesting concept. I think there's a lot that could be done there because that was 2-way. And during the restoration of One Grafton Common, we made it 1-way because of the construction, and then we never brought it back to 2-way because cars coming up Worcester Street that want to get down North Street used to always take a left on the boulevard, and you can't do that anymore. So it puts that traffic up onto the common, which really gridlocks the traffic because they have to stop to make that left, and then that stops a lot of other things other than the people heading north on 140. Other than that, everybody else kind of has to stop because that car is parked right in the middle of that intersection waiting to take that left turn. So if we could alleviate that, I think we would get a lot of cars off of the common, which would help. The other thing is maybe we keep it one way and we just make it almost diagonal parking on both sides and make it almost like a parking lot. You know, I did talk to Fiona about the other side of the common, which with all those slip lanes, there's a lot of pavement over there between the road in front of the Congregational Church and then the road that goes around the common, and then the slip lane over to South and the slip lane over to Milbury Street, which is very confusing for people. Those slip lanes are very, very narrow, and when you're driving them, you're looking to see the cars coming, and you drift into the middle of that lane, and they're two-way, and they're almost too small, especially if you're not looking. If you're looking to see oncoming traffic on your left, it's really dangerous. So I think there's some good work that to be done there to make some T intersections at, the top of Church and at the top of Milbury by running a straight road over there and maybe increasing the green space on the common, because there's a ton of pavement between the Congregational parking lot and the common, and maybe create some more green space, and maybe there's some opportunity for some more parking too, because there's a lot of unnecessary stuff there. We have obviously some monuments we would have to find homes for, but we don't talk about that side of the common a lot, but doesn't see as much traffic, but there's definitely some things that need to be fixed and some opportunities to pick up more common, which might help us on the other side. So me and Fiona, we sat a couple weeks ago and kind of went through a lot of this. And I'll just throw this out there while I have the floor, and then I'll shut up. What was that? I think it would be good. I would just throw this out there for consideration. Maybe we form a small working group to work with Fiona, and I don't know how long the consulting Stantec can stay involved, but with people that get a group that kind of is up there all the time, so that are really familiar with the movements and sees opportunities where we can. There's some good recommendations here, but maybe dial it in and make some final recommendations. I'll just say that.
You go ahead.
All right, just real quick, I did want to point out there are some illustrations for the deletion of some slip lanes and everything. In this slideshow, they're pretty small. So what I would recommend is that we pull those out and print them on a larger format so that we can distribute those to the board so that we can actually see what they're.
I can pull them up actually if you'd like to have that conversation. I have them bigger.
Right now?
They were just small for now.
I think it would probably be beneficial for us to just get paper copies to the board and then let them have time to digest that.
Great.
Yep, that's fine.
So just a couple of comments. I think I totally agree with the crosswalks, the locations, a couple of those, at least I think 3 of them, you are in the crosswalk with traffic in front of you and behind. So changing the location is awesome. And then the notion of the striping, making it so that it's more prominent somehow. I agree with just getting Jordan Boulevard back to a 2-way. I think that takes some of the pressure off of right outside of the Uncommon Cow, which for me, spending a fair amount of time up there seems to be the worst part of the whole common. So anyways, I think Jordan Boulevard 2 ways could alleviate some of that. I think the speed limit coming in is a great idea as well, and I'd love to figure out, is that what DOT what we have to get on board with them quicker, sooner than later?
The part, well, all of it kind of, yes, but also the part I think that Aaron was talking about was the extended sidewalk.
Yep, over there too, yep.
Which, Fiona, are they constructing that sidewalk currently? Because I thought they were extending sidewalk to where Cumberland Farms is currently?
It's to the railroad tracks.
Doesn't go past the railroad tracks? That's it? Just ends there?
Right. Yeah, I think that there's some sidewalk network. There's the kind of open parking area that's behind the Grafton Inn that does not have sidewalk infrastructure, but then it starts up again as you move toward the common. So it's a little bit disjointed, but yeah, Mass DOT only did up to the rail lines.
You can't walk to the convenience store, but you can walk to the middle of railroad tracks.
But my point being, I think that if we can address the speed limit there coming in, that makes complete sense to me, and to lower that, and if we can work with DOT to maybe implement any of this other stuff. I like that T intersection at Oak coming out of the common, going on to Oak, like Oak Street is straight ahead. I know I'm in that a lot, and the sight line to the right is ridiculous, so I liked that when the diagram where you teed that off. And there'd still be a road on the west side of the common, right? Just when you show it's more green, the last diagram almost looks like there's no road anymore, but I'm assuming it's still there. It's just that the green was a lot.
The four recommendations or the four concepts for you to consider, some keep the road and some remove it and turn it into a parking lot completely. That's where Paul and Fiona are suggesting that you would need a further conversation.
Gotcha. Okay, so it is how I saw it. So the third diagram, there is some road there, more green, and then the fourth one actually is all green, no road, extend parking lot. Okay. I don't know if I like, yeah, we'd have to think more about that. And then reducing the slip lanes, I think, is also sounds good, or one way, or what have you. Those are also a little bit tricky for people that aren't familiar with the common. So thanks for the work. I appreciate all the input that you guys accepted, and looking at this from just a totally different perspective, I think.
Mr. Hoffman, Nathan, any questions you'd like to?
Yeah, I really appreciate the work and all the options. I feel like I need some time to really, and some larger diagrams to look at and think about, and I'd like to actually go and walk the common and sort of think about the options. But in general, I think the idea of less pavement dead space and a little bit more green to just make things more obvious to the people driving through the common makes a ton of sense to me. And there's a beautification element to that too. The more green and the less pavement we can have, I think I'm definitely in favor of. The curb extensions, I think, are a great idea, and sort of considering where we place those crossings, trying to minimize, particularly from the Congregational Church over to the common. It's a massive, you got to go 20 yards to get over to the common, and it's a really common place for people to park. So, figuring out how to better, construct that makes a ton of sense to me. Making some of maybe one or two of the slip lanes one direction. I know I lived in Grafton 23 years now, and I'm still really hesitant going through some of those slip lanes because you're just not quite sure whether other people navigating understand that it's two-way and they're really narrow, and it's I think I would definitely favor some work with the slip lanes to just either make them one way, eliminate them, or just reconfigure them to make it clearer. And then the speed limit changes to me are just that's alarming to hear that sort of the average speed going through the common is 30 miles an hour. That is completely unacceptable. I'm surprised by that. Anything that we can do to reduce the average speed coming through the common makes a ton of sense. So those speed limit recommendations, those changes, they all make a ton of sense for me. The narrower lanes, just the painted narrower lanes, that seems like a pretty straightforward one. That makes a ton of sense to me too. So yeah, I'm hesitant about Jordan Boulevard only because I just Apple Trees has a lot of pickup and drop off there, so I do have some concerns there. But I definitely I mean, and that's something that's a use that's changed since it was made one way. So that pickup and drop off is kind of new. It didn't exist really in the same way. And we've got the tavern right there too. So, I don't know, for me, that's something I need to think about a little bit in terms of just respecting the, that activity there. But I understand that it could actually relieve, some traffic at the main intersection there, which would be, that's an intersection that backs up quite frequently. So, yeah, great work. That's all I got for right now.
I have a couple questions as well. So when we talked about the updates to 140 specifically, tying them in with the state, is that something that we still have time to work with and figure out at this point? How quickly do we need to come to decisions on stuff like that?
The sooner the better with regard to 140.
Right.
We still have some time before striping, but any of that kind of low, we'll call it low hanging fruit, we'd probably want to move on sooner rather than later. And I would suggest that if the board is interested in narrowing the lanes to try to make it feel a little tighter and slow people down, that you all give us the go ahead to reach out to MassDOT and see if we can make that happen.
Need a motion?
So moved.
So for me, as far
You
as
might have other stuff too, but
as far as the 140 stuff goes, the signage, the striping, and the curbing, I'm good to go for that part of this project to just signal to DOT that
we'd like to see that.
we'd
happen.
like to see that happen. Yeah.
How's everybody else feeling about
Yep.
Yes.
that?
Yeah, my only question, I'd be in favor of widening the sidewalk that goes along the Grafton Inn in that area that was identified as narrow in this, if we could possibly do that as well. I'm definitely in favor of the striping, but that's something I'd like to, I guess, more information on.
Okay.
If we could make that adjustment.
We'd have to, that's a tougher lift, I
That's
think.
not them, right? That's not DOT on the other side, is it?
Yeah,
I thought that was
No,
part of the
that might-
1727.
well, no, because that would be back, right? Aren't we talking about right at the
1727 is connecting up to that
to that?
existing sidewalk that basically runs along the side of.
I'd have to figure out if that's us or MassDOT, but I think it would be us because we're past that little line where we maintain in MassDOT.
Okay.
So, but we can certainly look at that, and if it was something that we have the ability to do, you could always call a real brief Zoom board meeting to just say, yeah, make it so. But I think if everyone's in agreement on the 140, which it seems like it is, then we can reach out to MassDOT post haste and see if we can get those changes implemented.
Yeah, we're all in favor of that, yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
This is the, maybe a couple comments, Mr. Chair.
I just have a couple
All
more
right,
things
go
I want
for
to
it.
touch on quick.
Yep.
Maybe if you
Please.
would wait your turn.
Who's this turn?
Aaron, I did want to thank you for highlighting the comment about, I know Mr. Hassinger is a big fan of that idea, so I'm sure he's very glad that you entertained that. I want to ask for a little clarity on what's needed for the final plan, because looking at the scope and schedule, and I'm not saying this to point fingers or anything, it looks like the final plan was tentatively scheduled towards the end of June. We're discussing the draft plan now. So what do you need for feedback from us to incorporate into this final plan, or is there any? I mean, because at the end of this, ultimately, we're basically left with suggestions as to what you would recommend. So, do you need us to give feedback so we can reduce the number of suggestions that come back? Where
So
are we with that?
It's very important to us. I'll give some context as to why we have that June deadline in our materials. Is that June, the grant that we have with MDI with the state ends on June 30th. I think every single one of our communities requests some extra time. That's more important to make sure that everybody, all the stakeholders are on board with the materials, all of the select board, all the staff, everyone is comfortable with the recommendations. So we typically say, we should have a good draft by June 30th, but we're more comfortable waiting until later in July if you all want to review it in more detail. So that's why, from my side, I'm not concerned about the June. For us bleeding into July, we are still able to do this, and the state knows that these conversations require additional time. What I need from you all, or would like from you all, is just what you're providing today, that you're open to the idea of 10-foot lanes on 140, that's something that you're comfortable with us putting into a report, that these are the right issues for us to be covering, that yes, you want to have a further conversation about what's going on west of the common, and if there's anything that you particularly want us to highlight. What we didn't want to have happen is I didn't want to come here today and say these are the final recommendations and have somebody say, well, why aren't we doing the common about? Why aren't we doing a rotary at the Millbury and Worcester intersection, which we didn't even talk about today? Or absolutely not, Jordan George Boulevard needs to remain one way. We just need to have this conversation with you all before we can do that.
That makes total sense. Thank you.
But I'm not concerned about the June. We're still in the right buffer window. So no worries on that end.
Okay, great. Is there our next scheduled meeting is the 15th. I think that would give people some time to look into that. Would you like us to try and target that date for feedback? Start compiling feedback, or closer to the end of, if we discuss it maybe in open session next meeting, and then get you feedback by closer to the end of July? What would you like for timing?
Fiona, you let me know if that's a problem, but I think that if you all want to have a deeper conversation about this on the 15th and we can finalize the report at the end of July, that works for my timeline.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I have no concerns either, Erin. I mean, I'm, kind of just trying to be cognizant of your schedule, of, Stantec's schedule as well as the board. So I can make anything work.
Yeah, Stantec is fine. Whatever works for Grafton.
Okay.
All yours, Mr. Alamo.
I'll make it quick. Just thank you, Aaron. Great job. Thank you, Fiona. Great job. Agree with everybody. A lot of the recommendations I would actually implement. Definitely love the speeding. Slow it down. Would there be, and in that context, would there be any way, and I know this from personal experiences, I drive wherever I'm driving, if I see those flashing lights on the speed limit reduced from 40 to 25, or if I see a speed limit sign with flashing lights on it, and also the speed limit that you're going and you should be lower, have you given any thought to that? Any recommendations with that? You're implementing something like that? Because they do drive, people do drive fast coming in from Upton into the common, and Matt, you're right, like it's 30, 40 miles an hour whipping into there. They go very fast, but those flashing lights could be also an additional sort of deterrent. Is there any thought that's been put into doing something like that?
I'm glad you said an additional deterrent. We really do see that signals and signage, they only work when we couple them with geometrical changes, like with the ones that we're talking about and that you all are suggesting support for. We can incorporate them in the report and recommend that you explore those further. That typically does come down to a town decision and working with MassDOT to install them, but there's not great studies out there that say that they do or don't work, but if folks in Grafton are supportive of them, there's no reason to not put them in either. You just do them in with the geometrical changes.
Okay, thank you.
I believe we have one of the solar speed limit signs just down the street from the DPW site, and people just ignore it.
Or see how fast you can get it to go.
Yeah, or that.
Is there,
There's one on Worcester Street too, coming into the common.
this poor guy has been waiting all night.
It's just an unfortunate spot where they put it. It's going up the hill. It's, you're not really accelerating, but anyway.
Okay. So yeah, any other questions, feedback, or while we have Fiona and Aaron here?
So we're thinking about this and coming back on the 15th with additional thoughts, insights, and feedback. Thank you, Mr. Administrator.
Welcome, Mr. Alamo.
Person sorry. Yeah.
All right. Thank you both so much for this. We all understand and appreciate the level of work that went into it and the public outreach, and really feeling good about the product that the product options that you're suggesting, and making that common a safer place. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I appreciate our water district's patience on this. We'll move into a discussion about our supply and demand analysis with Grafton Water District and the South Grafton Water District. Not sure how we really want to kick this off. Matt, do you want to just kind of...
Yeah, I can give you a little synopsis. Yeah, basically the Board of Water Commissioners a year and a half ago decided to do a supply and demand analysis, and we decided to go outside of, the experts that work for the water district, and to have a third party kind of look at our supplies and the demand based upon all of the housing that's on the books approved and a little bit of the housing that was going to be in the works, 40Bs, etc. We just did this to try to confirm that, our resources were enough to go, 10 years out, 15 years out, or 20 years out. Basically on page 12 of the report, just to, summarize it, we do have enough capacity with the existing well sites when they are all up to 100%. Right now, every one of them kind of has its own little problem, either water quality, just well problems. These are all fixable and basically all in the works. The majority of them is, obviously everybody knows, is the PFAS treatment, which we're going to have to do basically 3 plants. So in the meantime, we've worked on the bullets that are on page 12, which is basically, we're actually doing 2 water audits right now, one that we're funding separately and one that the state had a grant and they're doing on their own. And it'll be very interesting to find out what those 2 come up with and how they compare. Those should be done relatively soon. One of the things when we asked the state to increase our withdrawal of water from the aquifer is we use the DCR Water Needs Forecast Report, and we haven't had an update for the Grafton Water District in many, many years. So we filed paperwork with them to get an update based upon, they look at all the projects that have been approved in the past, the ones in the future, the ones that are on the books, and basically when they come back and they say, in year, 2035, this is the capacity we feel you will need and whether or not you meet that. And you can't ask for any more water than the numbers they come up with. So that's kind of the threshold we need to go by. We did get an emergency approval for Follett Street to pump out more capacity out of that. We're in a review right now of our whole capacity of all our water system wells to have our Water Management Act permit updated, so we can pump each well at its capacity, and hopefully Follett Street at 700 gallons a minute instead of 4, which it is right now. And then the last thing that everybody knows about is the 3 treatment plants. Right now, the Worcester Street plant is scheduled to be bid in September, with construction starting shortly thereafter. And that will take approximately, let's say, 2 years plus or minus to be complete and activated. The E Street well is really only 3 months behind that in the same sort of schedule. That one should be going to bid opening sometime in December or January, hopefully. And then the Trinity Ave / Follette Street treatment plant is probably not going to go to bid till probably fall of 2026, with a 2-year construction date after that. And then all of the sources will be treated for PFAS, as well as any iron and manganese that needs to be taken care of. And then, so that's when we will be at 100% of our capacity in withdrawal. So that 100% would be in 2028 sometime, if you look at all of the projects we're doing. And knowing everything else in this construction world, I would say, that's a good goal. Are we going to meet it? It shouldn't be far off, let me put it that way. So that's a kind of a wrap up of that report. Dave can speak about, our water quality issues and our moratorium, if that's what you'd like to hear about, and where we are with that. And then we can take any questions.
Do we want to talk water quality and moratorium, or do we want to remain focused on forecasting and get into some questions about that? I guess, does anybody have any questions that they'd like to ask about the water quality at this time?
Well, it'd be nice to know where it's, what's going to be happening, I guess, while they're here. With that, if Dave could speak to it, I think it's worth having him do it.
Okay. Dave, did we lose you?
He left. No.
As soon as you were like, yeah,
No comment.
He's like,
Yeah.
not today.
Not today.
Yeah, and I just had a power glitch here, so everything has to reset itself now. But yeah, I mean, the reason for the water ban is, as Matt was saying, we are using Follette Street at a higher capacity. Per the DEP, trade-off was that we had to do a mandatory outside water ban, which is basically no lawn watering except by hose, hand watering, no power washing cars, things like that. So that's basically why that's in place. And that is also helping that we don't have to run our Worcester Street station as much as we normally do, which would, the iron and manganese problem would be worse if we were running Worcester Street at its maximum capacity, which we normally are this time of year. So that's running at a reduced capacity now. It's not solving the problem, but it's definitely not as bad as it would be without doing that. And Matt pretty much filled it. The PFAS plants at Worcester Street and Trinity are coming along with iron and manganese treatment. Once those plants are done, we should not have any iron and manganese problems now. We do have a lot of older mains in the system. If there's a water main break, if there's a fire, somebody's, taking water from a hydrant that we don't know about, will there still be brown water? Yes. I mean, we're not going to get rid of it altogether, but the water going into the pipes will be cleaner. Like East Street, we have iron and manganese there, and the levels are almost non-existent at times. We take daily samples there.
Yeah, so that basically is where we're at with the water quality. And if you guys got any questions on, our capacity, I can answer those.
So, reading through the report, it seems like as we approach 2045, things are really going to start getting tight. that our capacity, the predicted million gallons per day, will be close to maxing out what our wells are able to produce, but also over the amount that the state allows us to currently draw.
Yeah, so where we are with that is the Water Management Act permit, they regulate how much you can withdraw from the aquifer. And that's based upon some magic number of population and growth. So that's what I was talking about before about the DCR report. So whenever we ask for any change in our withdrawal, we have to go back to the state and tell them why we're doing it and come up with a good reason. And a lot of that is based upon, the DCR report. So when we get to a point where we're going to be pumping over what we're approved at, we got to go back for an amendment. And if you look forward to, let's say, the 2045, their projection is that we're going to be over, what we're capable of pumping, as well as the Water Management Act permit. Now, the process to get an amendment is anywhere from a year to 2 years. And I've been working at least a year right now on the Follette Street issue. We do have several locations in town. One of them is the old well at the high school that was used for irrigation there. At one point, we had that approved as a public water supply, but we put it on the shelf because we really didn't need it at that point. So that is one location. That pumps 600 gallons a minute, so it's a very good source. My guess, it would need treatment, so it would need a location for a treatment plant and all that good stuff. We do have another location that is off of Pleasant Street near the power lines that we found years ago, which is another suitable location, and that was a similar capacity well. It's in the floodplain. It has its own issues about, getting there and location, but it is a source. So it's not like once we get these wells developed, we're at 100% and we're never going to find water again. So I think when we get somebody, not me, and probably not even Dave, but in 10 or 15 years, they're going to need to go back and revisit those sites and go through the process of testing them again and looking at it. And because it is about a 4 to 8 year period it takes to, go through the regulatory process.
Jesus.
Crazy. The state would love us to run a line from the MWRA pipe in Northborough and buy water from the state. They'd love that. So that's always an option. It's kind of crazy, but it is true. Somebody had asked us to look into Worcester to buy water from them in the meantime with all this dirty water complaints. And basically that answer from Worcester was not going to happen. So they want their own water. They're not going to sell it to everybody else. So, so that's where we are if that answers your question.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
I just have a question, Matt, on with the treatment plants. Are you getting any state or federal funds to offset any of that cost?
We got the 23 million SRF funding for Worcester Street. Our request for the Trinity Follette for the 32 million there didn't make the list. Well, it made the list, didn't get to the top of the list. We're resubmitting that for this year's round, and the likelihood of getting any more money is probably pretty low. So we're probably just going to go to the local bond market to fund, the rest of the plants. But we certainly will keep trying. So,
Mr. Chair. Matt, first, I guess I just wanted to say thanks so much for coming in. I really appreciate you guys coming in and having an open discussion with us. I know that, we've had some water issues over the past couple of years, and it's good to keep this in the public's eye and know that, planning and analysis continues to be done. So I really appreciate you guys coming in. I'm looking at, let's see, I think it's page 12 of the report that you guys sent through. in the sort of top paragraph, it's mentioned the Grafton Water District should complete a supply and source analysis to determine recommendations for essentially bringing all of our sources up to full capacity. And then in the summary, there's a number of bullets in there. How does the supply and source analysis relate to what are in the bullets? Is it the same thing that they're talking about?
I'll be kind and say that the supply and source analysis is another way the engineering firm can write a report that will cost us $7,000 or $8,000 that we can answer in house. Basically, by doing the bullets is going to solve our supply, analysis.
Okay.
I mean, I've been in the business for 44 years, I think now. And we've always looked for additional water ever since I started at, working in Grafton. And I think those two other sites are going to meet the needs of the town in the future. It's just going to be somebody else driving the cart at that point. And but all of that information is documented and protected. We've asked the school system not to do anything over there, and they've always been acknowledged that. And certainly, the town needs to protect that site as best it can.
Yep. So
but
I
we
guess
we are doing all the other bullets, and we're on a course to get these treatment plants done as fast as we can.
got it. I guess what I would just respond with is so I'm not a customer. I have a well, but if I were a customer, I would feel better if I had some kind of published strategic plan or something like that. I do actually have a lot of faith in your expertise based on the number of years and the work that you guys have been doing, but I would feel better as a customer of yours if I had some kind of published plan which showed essentially, you said we can do this in-house. I think it's important that you provide that type of analysis in terms of putting it all together in some kind of time frame so that people have that, I guess, just trust and visibility into, how that, what you guys have been thinking about, the work that you have continued to do, things like you're talking about, which is, yep, we have an agreement with the school that they're going to sort of set that aside, and when that's needed, it'll be there. Those sorts of things, I think, just having them in some kind of visible document or strategic plan would help with public confidence, I guess is all I would say to that. But
Yeah, we do a master plan update. We did an original master plan years ago, and we just do an update about every 5 to 6, 7 years.
Yep.
And you're absolutely right. It's more of a record in case
Exactly.
Dave and I get hit by a bus one, get crossing that common.
Right.
It's so somebody else have that record of where we should be going and heading. And no, I agree with you. And we do that in a short version of an amendment to our master plan. Probably needs to be updated. We can look into that.
I appreciate you guys coming in. Thank you.
Sure, good. Yeah.
The other thing that I just wanted to mention was, certainly, someday there will be no more outdoor watering, and that might be, 40 years, it might be 80 years from now. It's just, that's a luxury. And if, we get to the point where there's no more water available, that's what you're going to start chiseling off of stuff like that. So,
I finally got the one
I mean,
looking good up.
Dave told me the other day the consumption went from 1.3 to almost 2 million gallons a day once we hit that heat wave. So there's 700,000 gallons a day that's just used in heat related uses, showering more often, but really watering at night when you're not supposed to, which we've caught plenty of people. So we do go out at night, just a reminder to the folks out there trying to water at night.
They're watching you, Mark.
Yeah, actually, do you, Mr. Chair? How do you, I'm not doing anything wrong. My thing's shut off.
Sure you're not. Go.
I'm cool.
Mark just woke up.
I know
No, but actually, are you driving around and like going in driveways and stuff, or just like driving slowly past houses?
People like me are calling them.
Is that what's happening?
Yeah, exactly. We the neighbors are great, you know, because they can't water, so why are they letting you? So they make phone calls. But
Right.
yeah, we do go out at night and drive around because people think we go home at 4 o'clock, but we don't.
Does
So-
anybody pull in a driveway during the day and sit in the driveway?
He's just asking for a friend.
No, I'm actually being serious because, so for the
Unlikely.
record, I can prove that I'm not doing it. You just come and see my lawn. It doesn't look great. But I'm wondering, if does anybody pull in the driveway and sit there? Is there like a meter reader from the car that can be? Because that actually.
Well, we
did
have
happen.
trucks. You know, we do go to people's houses for all kinds of things. You know,
Yeah.
check meters, readings, valve changes, dirty water.
Yeah.
So
they don't have to go to your house to read your meter.
No, right, okay.
yeah. No, we drive right by.
Yeah. Normally what we do is if we, we're going around or somebody calls, we go and check it out. We'll take a picture and then send them a written warning. And then if it happens again, they get a $500 fine. If it happens again, they get another $500 fine and we shut their water off. So.
Okay. Whoa. All right. All the water?
Stuffing it.
Yeah.
Clean correct.
Matt and Dave, thanks for being here tonight. This is an important discussion. Your customers are obviously townies, and we represent them. So it's a good discussion, and there's good to get clarification on. I just have one question, and it has to do with the commercial and industrial kind of market in Grafton. We're gonna continue to try and grow that, not just residentially, but also from our commercial and industrial tax base. And is there what do we tell a developer or a company that's coming in, that some of them need a lot of water, some of them don't, but if we have somebody interested in, say, specifically looking at like Discovery Drive up by Tufts, we're going to try and really make a hard push to see if we can develop some of those lots up there. So what do we need to know on our end as far as if we're approached by somebody or if we have somebody interested in developing, some of those lots up there when it comes to water?
Yeah. Well, obviously, we'd love to have a big building with low water use. UPS is a perfect example. Huge tax dollars out of that, but very low water consumption. We don't want a brewery. Well, maybe we do, but it's a balance, because if we get one large commercial customer that comes in, I mean, when Discovery Drive and that was first in play, we were talking about pharmaceutical companies coming in that were going to use, 1 million gallons a day for their process of producing pharmaceuticals. Well, if you take 1 million gallons a day out of our reserves, in all reality, we'd have to put a moratorium on housing. I mean, we can't supply everybody. So
Right.
it's a balance of, unfortunately, where the town wants its tax revenue to come from. Obviously, commercial is better because it's a low demand on the town. We did have a person reach out to us a month or so ago, a company, a real estate developer, who was, looking around and asked what our consumption rate was, what did we have for reserves? And, we told them right now that we had a moratorium. I mean, we certainly wouldn't lie to them about it. And, but we're making every effort to get back, get these plants treated and have the reserves. So you could do somebody that wanted, 200,000 or 300,000 gallons a day.
Yeah. So on the town end, like, how do we handle a situation like that? Do we bring you guys to the table when we have somebody interested? I mean, I'd rather have them calling the town and then have us contact you and sit with them, full transparency.
Yep.
But we don't want the Grafton Water District dictating, saying we don't have water for you, you can't come to Grafton. I mean, we need to be, and I don't know how it all went down, but we need to be part of that conversation.
Yeah. Most of the time it goes through the planning board. Somebody's reaching out to the town. you know, Fiona will call us or past planners, you know, I've been here a long time.
Yeah.
You know, all the way back to Peter Lowett, you know, they'd call and we'd sit down and say, you know, this is, our client is looking for, you know, 500,000 gallons a day or 100,000 gallons a day. And, you know, we say, yeah, we can, you know, up till 10 years ago, we'd say, yeah, whatever you want. You know, obviously the town's grown a lot, and, you know, the whole issue with the treatment is kind of put a little, you know, slow in our steps. Oh, there's Fiona. She's still there.
So do you have a
you know,
number?
And I would expect the planning board to reach out to us and,
So do you have a number or policy, or how do you make that decision? How do you handle that call?
we know what our reserves are, so, you know, we make a call. And, you know, and like I said, though, unfortunately, if somebody comes in and wants, you know, let's say somebody wants to do 350,000 gallons a day, and they pay for those reserves, then when somebody comes in with a 250 unit 40B, we're going to be, someday you'll be at the point where you say, well, we can't supply that.
Right.
Is that today? I don't think so. Is it within 10 years? I don't think so. But
so the town isn't part of that process right now. Like you're.
Well, no, they have been. I mean, we've had that discussion. You know, typically the developer isn't calling us. I mean, that was a fluke that they reached out to Dave in an email with somebody out of Boston.
Yeah.
You know, they were just saying, you know, what's your capacity? And
right.
But most of the time it's the Economic Development Commission or the planning board that's reaching out to us, because somebody's looking at a specific site. In the day it was, you know, who was doing the Centennial Drive out of Worcester, the company that had the lots up there where State Street is. I mean, they were kind of marketing them for the town at the time.
Right. All right. Well, that
was the development.
Yeah. No, this is good because I think we need to talk internally about who on the town side is handling that too. I mean, it can't be just the planning board. It's got to be, you know, our executive office. And maybe Fiona's including that. I don't know how it's all happening, but I think it's good that we're talking about it because I think we need to figure out how we want to handle those calls. And the water district has capacity. We get that. But as far as the decision making on what the water demand is and whether we want them or we can handle them in Grafton, because we want to see some commercial growth.
And it flips to the sewer side too. I mean, if somebody's taking 1 million gallons from us and they're discharging 1 million gallons to sewer,
right?
You know, does the town want that? Does the town want to use up 30%
right.
of their sewer on a commercial building, or do they want housing?
Right.
So,
and that's the discussion we need to have here, I think. You know, but it's important that we know the limitations, and you know, if somebody does approach us, we need to know whether we can or can't, you know, continue the conversation as far as them coming here.
Anybody else? Okay. I had a couple, but throughout the course of this whole discussion, we covered them. So thank you all.
I got one little other
I was
thing.
gonna say, Matt, are you signing off?
No, I'm going to talk about the dog park.
Okay, sounds good.
The 1 minute, right?
Yeah.
Just wanted to. Anne Marie reached out to me, and we had a conversation a couple months ago about, you know, the town's still looking for a dog park, and the Follett Street field came into play, and we met, I don't know, a month or so ago down there, and then I went back to the Board of Water Commissioners. I said, you know, could we use a little part of this field as a dog park if it fits in well with, you know, our treatment plant designs and all that? And they said, you know, go forward with checking on it and looking into it. And so I guess we're going to do that a little in the future, and as soon as I get a site plan. And so the district's open to, you know, allowing the town to use a portion of that land if it works out for a dog park in the future, if that's the way it goes. So
Nice. Yeah. Excellent.
And this goes back when we had the Fields Coalition, of which I was the chair. We looked at Follett Street and we had some specific designs drawn up, which I think Matt and I kind of remember back then. And a dog park was part of that. So it's kind of always been the back of my mind and kind of floating out there. So if this could be an opportunity that we could capitalize on, I think it would be great. And dog parks don't require a lot of money in terms of infrastructure, so dogs don't care.
Okay. Do we want to let the Grafton Water District go home for the night and talk to South Grafton now? Yeah.
That would be lovely.
All right. Matt and Dave, thank you both for coming in and walking us through this. And yeah, maybe it'd be good for us to check in on a more regular basis, just so we're having these conversations and keeping each other in the loop.
It's not so long.
Thank you both.
You okay?
Thank
Should've
you.
brought a cup of coffee with me.
Yeah. I run out real quick.
Our
Seems
closing-
like this meeting's
Thanks,
not
Matt.
gonna end.
Bye.
Thanks, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, guys.
I feel bad.
Okay.
How is
are
things
you?
in South Grafton?
Brought our master plan with me.
Excellent.
So things look pretty good. According to our master plan, we're really not looking at re-permitting until 2085, as far as withdrawal. So, that's 60 years out. So we're a much smaller system, and we're building a PFAS plant, obviously. Everybody's hit with it. We're seeing it at Ferry Street at well 3. So I've had the primary well shut down for the last 2 years. And we started into the piloting studies and the design and everything for building the PFAS plant quite some time ago. So I'm going to break ground this August. We've already been to bid, got the money through the SRF. Starting to see money come in from the large class action lawsuits against the big chemical companies. So we're in decent shape. We're spending $4.1 million to get everything going. Everything's going to be brand new pumps, new motors, new electrical systems, generator, everything down there. It's all going to be brand new when we're done for that amount of money, which is a pretty good deal. Right now, the calculations I have in the master plan are spot on. I've actually pumped a little less water than they predicted, So in 2025, I actually pumped a little bit less water than what they were predicting we were going to do. In 2035, they're looking of going up another 20,000 gallons a day. We're well below our withdrawal amount. Until we hit 300,000, we're really not looking at having to do anything as far as permitting with the state. They do ask us to restrict things such as lawn watering. We follow their guidelines. We listen to some of their restrictions. And right now it's been important that we do just allow handheld watering, and we don't allow any sprinkler systems to be running or anything right now, because we're still just running on 2 wells. So we're running at half capacity until we get the plant built. So I'm anticipating 12, 15 months on the build. So by this time next year, we should be getting ready to start up a water filtration plant at Ferry Street. So
Do you think you'd release the restrictions on irrigation once the?
we're going to
plant's
revisit
online?
it. Absolutely, we can revisit it. And,
Just curious. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we're might be able to loosen up the restrictions a little bit. Some of the reasons we've kept the numbers reasonable is water restrictions, conservation. So it's not a endless supply, of drinking water. That was Matt explained. We're all faced with the same challenges in the business. Being a smaller system and having good pump capacity. I mean, back in the early 90s, we developed a large well down behind the Ferry Street ball field. We're pumping quite a bit of water out of there. This past December, I had access to a piece of property where I thought I'd find another well site, and I didn't. The material was just too tight. We weren't going to get flow. There's some other ideas I have. Getting into the floodplain, it's costly. Probably going to find more PFAS. I'm thinking we're going to start seeing it from the river. It's everywhere. The whole country's faced with it. So we're not in terrible shape, making progress. As far as building goes, we really don't have a lot of land compared to what's Grafton's a much larger system. There's a lot of space. So we're not really faced with a lot of the big stuff. I mean, we're looking at potentially something maybe on Main Street, but it's something we'd be able to handle, from what's been proposed.
Is that the Burnett
Yeah,
property?
yeah, I've been in contact.
So you guys, you got capacity for that?
We do. I've talked with Gene. Yeah.
It's good.
So that's the only big thing I see coming up, you know, and we'll be up and running by then, I'm sure.
I don't generally hear much out of the South Grafton Water District, or, you know, issues
We try to behave.
online, which is good. Yeah, flying under the radar, always nice. I guess, do you want to just tell us a little about like what your infrastructure's like? Because it doesn't sound like
Looking at
you get a
18
lot
miles of water main,
breaks or anything.
approximately 990 customers, 990 connections, 132 fire hydrants. Get $1 million in storage. There's 2 tanks. You got $750,000 on Keith Hill, $250,000 on Leland. You got the water treatment plant on Providence Road, which was built in 2012. That's for microbe removal. It's a 4 log removal plant, so we're looking at taking 3 to 5 micron microbes out of the water. It's groundwater under the influence of surface. Occurred back then during 2 moderate MPAs in a row when we sent the samples out. So we've got Ferry Street's our primary well. Right now it's over the state limit for PFAS, the primary well. Well 2, we've seen some trace amounts show up there, but we're not over the limits. Right now, neither well's over the limit. During the drought last year, I saw numbers really go up at 3 when I was doing the sampling. We do pump at the waste and do routine samples. So we have all that data. So it went up considerably. A lot of communities in the Commonwealth got caught up during the drought. Just dilution factor. You know, the numbers went way up. So,
any questions or comments from the board? Jake, your job was easy tonight.
That's great, thank you.
yeah, no, I mean, I feel
Aside
kind
from
of
the
bad
weight,
for
which we
the other
apologize
guys.
for.
They've got a big task ahead of them.
What's the year of your master plan? When did you guys do it?
This one was done in 2015. I'm sure we're going to end up having to redo it with startup of the new plant. Usually the DEP is pretty thorough and looks at a lot of this stuff. I'm calculated out through 2035 with this copy here. And if you followed the existing trends in the water consumption projections in the report, it puts us, before we're maxed out with our withdrawal permit, we're somewhere out around 60 years. So I think we'd run out of space down there in South Grafton before we get
Yeah.
there. So
Sounds like it, good.
yeah, no, we're on track. Things are going okay. You know, the PFAS thing's a tough one. You know, for everybody.
I'm surprised how out in front of that you are, though. I mean, that's
Yeah, I got involved. The person I worked with doing the Providence Road plant was repping a different media. He's working for Adage Corporation now, and I met with them. With Chris Savino is the chemist with Adage that I'd been working with, and we went to him right when I first got involved with the state free testing, and we did find some of it, and we weren't sure where the numbers were going to go. So I immediately reached out to some experts in the field and started seeing what's going on. And New Jersey's been after it for a long time using certain medias, and the media that I did do the small scale column pilot with Corolla Labs, we went to a lab in Boise, Idaho that Corolla owns called WaterArc. I sent 150 gallons of water in a reefer truck out there to do the piloting. And the media we're looking at is Fluorosorb 200, which is a clay-based media, and it's cost effective, and you can hold a chlorine residual through it and a pH through it. So it's a desirable technology because of that. And I was we're looking at granularly activated carbon, and some of the bigger problems with that is just the amount of arsenic in it, and the amount of rinsing you, the wasted water to get it to where you can utilize it. So I think Grafton's also been piloting the media that we're going to run with. So now we did a pretty good job of getting ahead of it. So
yeah, you did.
Yeah, we're trying.
That's great.
So,
Thanks, Steve.
Yeah, not a problem.
Thank you.
So if you have any questions, or if you need a copy of the master plan, I got make a copy of that stuff, get it to you.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Yeah. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay. Evan, you want to take us through the VHB service agreement?
I think Fiona's still on here and was gonna
That's
talk
why
about it.
Fiona's hanging out.
Yep.
Yes. Hi, everyone. So, this agreement is a draft for consideration for the board. Brian Cizerco and DPW did work directly with VHB to explain the scope of work. This is going to be preliminary design and engineering work that's required to improve the intersection of Pine Street and Route 30. This was an agreement arrived at during the public hearing process for the Prologis UPS facility. UPS has contributed $125,000 to a dedicated fund overseen by the DPW for this work. You'll note that the scope covers up to 123,000, so there's a little bit of wiggle room there, but it's always good to kind of have that wiggle room. The next phase is once we finish this scope with VHB will be to actually implement and construct the improvements. So we are on a little bit of a deadline because we are trying to coordinate the improvements alongside the development that's going on and have them align at the same time so the intersection is ready to go by the end of 2026. But this is the first step. We've worked very closely with VHB in the past. They've done a lot of infrastructure projects in town. But I'm happy to answer any questions that you all may have.
Anybody?
Nope.
Yeah,
Oh, see, I could have handled this, Fiona.
I'll make it easy on you.
Awesome. Okay.
All right.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks for staying,
Thanks,
Fiona.
Fiona.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Fiona.
it.
Bye.
Okay, take a motion.
I move the board vote to approve and sign the contract with VHB for the Pine Street and Route 30 intersection improvement project as presented.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, IMA with the town of Shrewsbury for public health services.
Yep. So this is a very similar IMA to the one that we had with the city of Worcester. Pretty close. This, I just want to clarify, is an IMA for services based on our dollars that we contribute in from our annual budget. There will be a separate IMA that comes in for the Public Health Excellence Grant. State requires very different IMA language than what we have in our IMA with Shrewsbury. We're working on trying to get them to combine, but it's just not working out. So we're going to do it in two different phases. We do have until October 31st to complete our application for the Public Health Excellence Grant, which we are moving along nicely through. Just while we're on the subject, I'll give you a quick update on the Public Health Alliance that we have formed with Shrewsbury and West Boylston. So we currently have no employees, but we have contracts for inspectional services and public health nursing so that we're not falling into any gaps while we're trying to execute this district. We finalized director interviews this afternoon. The inspector positions will be finalized tomorrow afternoon, and the public nurse interviews actually we're concluding this afternoon too. So we've got great candidates lined up. We're just waiting to complete the process. By the end of this week, we should have all the offers out, and so from there it'll be off to the races. So looking to hire a director, nurse, 2 inspectional services people. That's consistent with what we have. And then when the director's brought on board, we'll chase down the other things like epidemiology, public outreach, those other components, and figure out how we're closing that gap. But I don't anticipate that anybody's going to really see any impacts. We've got our bases covered for the minimal services, and then we're going to just build from there. So budget's set. Interviews are happening, and we're making some really good progress. So, obviously, we were trying to be up and running for today, but as we said in the interviews today, clearly didn't happen because here we are. So, but I'm shocked at the quality of candidates that we received, having hired in the municipal space for the last 4 years. This candidate pool is well qualified in every position that we posted, so we're pretty excited about it.
Great.
Yeah. back to the IMA, again, nothing, no outliers, very similar to what we've already done with the city of Worcester.
Any questions, comments?
So why is West Boylston not mentioned at all?
They have a
They're
separate
doing it-
IMA.
And they're just doing it with Shrewsbury as well?
Correct.
So it's, we're all just aligning with them?
Yep.
Okay,
Correct. Shrewsbury is the host community.
I see. That's all.
Anyone else? Okay, take a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move the board vote to approve and sign the intermunicipal agreement with the town of Shrewsbury for public health services.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Okay, select board reports.
Just have one. That clock is working.
I know, I noticed too.
So that's my select, I can't believe it.
That's your report. Hey, Bill.
I'm reporting that. I'm watching that thing all night long and it's actually keeping time.
Yeah, there's-
Usually it says like 3:45.
Right. They, as I like to joke in the office, if you wait long enough, it'll just fix itself. And it appears to be true with the clocks because we've waited and they just started working again.
All of them?
No.
Oh.
But the important ones, the one in here and the one in my office is perfect.
No.
No, we
What's
are
our annual budget?
for clocks.
No,
$0.
just for the town.
It doesn't matter. I don't have money for clocks yet. Clocks are very expensive.
This system is crazy expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Like crazy expensive. Plus, it's 1960s
The ones with
technology.
the batteries
You
that
can't-
you put in the back.
you can, but then everybody's gonna be on different time. It's gonna be a problem. Anyways, we're working on a long-term solution. But in the meantime, I have fixed it.
Great job.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Sounds like you didn't do anything.
All right. Anyone else?
That is in fact doing something. Right.
Anybody?
I just have one. The master plan working group. Sorry, held its last meeting. Perhaps it was last Monday or the Monday before, in conjunction with the planning board. And so now the master plan working group is done after I think it was just over 2 years worth of work, and the planning board did accept the master plan. So remains to be seen whether that will go to town meeting. There was some discussion relative to that. I was in favor of it going toward to the town meeting floor, but I believe we left that up to the planning board at some future time. But the master plan working group is done.
That's got to feel pretty good.
It sure does. It was all remote for like 2 years, so I'm not a remote kind of person.
Okay, we'll kick it over to Evan for a TA report. Wish you a happy fiscal new year and
Thank
hope
you.
for prosperity.
Yeah, I don't have a formal update. I was off last week and very busy today, so I just did not get one written up, but I will be back on July 15th, back in the regular.
How'd it go last week? We had a good week, huh, Will?
Oh, yeah.
Must have been great.
Nice and smooth. I was super productive.
Will got the clocks fixed.
Yeah,
Always
nice.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
always nice when the boss is done.
Yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we can jump to correspondence then. Is there anything anybody wanted to talk about there? I did want to highlight one. I couldn't remember how we've done this in the past. I probably should have gone back and looked, but we did get the request for Indian Independence Day again. We've been a host community with them for the past few years. It's something I think that's deeply appreciated by our South Asian community. I'd definitely be in favor of continuing to do that. We were sent some proposed dates. I don't know if anybody had a chance to look at those or if it's something we want to discuss and send back a recommendation. Everybody be amenable to that?
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Okay, so they, I believe in the past we've held them Saturday mornings. They offered up July 26th or 27th, August 2nd or 3rd, and then August 9th or 10th.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Might it be appropriate for me to have the staff in our office make sure that those days are not conflicting with anybody else, and then send out a poll to the board to see what date would work best for board members to attend?
That would be amazing.
Then we could put it on the agenda to do a proclamation like we did in years past.
Yep.
And then go from there.
Beautiful. All right.
Great.
Make it happen. Anything else? Hearing nothing, no resignations tonight. Any public comment? Nobody's in the room.
You have no hands on Zoom.
We have no hands on Zoom. Got some meeting minutes though.
Yep, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Alamo.
I move the board vote to approve the meeting minutes for March 18, March 20, April 1, May 6, June 3rd, and June 17th of 2025 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Declare us adjourned. Thank you all.
Good job.